It was a still, humid night on March 8, 2014, when Kuala Lumpur International Airport bustled quietly with activity. Beneath the fluorescent lights of the departure terminal, weary travelers shuffled through security, checked their luggage, and prepared for overnight flights that would whisk them away to distant destinations. The air inside the terminal was filled with the low hum of announcements, the clattering of suitcases, and the faint sound of casual conversations. Among the travelers gathered that night were 227 passengers and 12 crew members scheduled to board Malaysia Airlines flight MH370, bound for Beijing. To those passengers, MH370 was merely a vessel, a necessary connection to their futures. There were young families heading home after vacations in Malaysia, college students returning to their studies, and businessmen eager to finalize deals in China. Among the passengers was a young couple holding hands, whispering excitedly about their wedding plans, their shared future stretching before them. A mother cradled her toddler in her arms, rocking him gently to sleep. A man in his late 60s adjusted his jacket, his face lined with years of experience and fatigue as he prepared to meet his daughter after a long absence. Each of them had a story, a purpose, a life waiting for them beyond the hours of darkness they were about to traverse. At the boarding gate, the flight crew gathered, sharing light banter to dispel the exhaustion that came with flying long-haul overnight routes. Captain Zahari Ahmad Shah, 53 years old and with over 18,000 flight hours to his name, exuded calm and confidence. Zahari was well respected by his peers, a veteran of the skies who knew the cockpit better than he knew his own backyard. Behind the controls, Zahari was a master, but he was also known as a deeply introspective man. At home, he had built a flight simulator in his living room, a hobby born of passion and curiosity for his craft. Beside Zahari sat his co-pilot for the flight, First Officer Farik Abdul Hamid. At 27 years old, Farik was ambitious and eager, nearing the completion of his training. MH370 was one of his last evaluation flights before earning his full credentials as a commercial pilot. Despite his relative inexperience, Farik carried an air of professionalism, his youthful excitement tempered by a deep respect for his responsibilities. The two men were an unlikely pairing, a seasoned captain and a wide-eyed apprentice, but together they represented a dynamic that had played out countless times before in cockpits across the world. As passengers boarded the massive Boeing 777-200ER, they were greeted warmly by the flight attendants. The aircraft was a marvel of engineering, hailed for its reliability, safety, and cutting-edge technology. Inside the cabin, the atmosphere was one of quiet anticipation. Passengers found their seats, stowed their luggage, and settled in for what most assumed would be an uneventful flight. The faint glow of cabin lights illuminated their faces, each one reflecting a different state of mind, excitement, fatigue, anxiety, or calm. At precisely 12:41 a.m., the plane roared to life, its twin engines propelling it down the runway with a force that pressed the passengers back into their seats. The Boeing 777 lifted gracefully into the night sky, the lights of Kuala Lumpur fading into the darkness below. From the windows, the horizon stretched endlessly, a void of black pierced only by the faint twinkling of stars. As the plane ascended to its cruising altitude of 35,000 feet, the passengers settled into the rhythm of a long-haul flight. A businessman flipped open his laptop, determined to finish a report before arrival. A teenage girl plugged in her headphones and lost herself in a playlist of her favorite songs. A mother tucked a blanket around her sleeping child, her eyes closing as exhaustion overtook her. In the cockpit, Zahari and Farik monitored their instruments, the routine chatter of air traffic control filling the silence. At 1:19 a.m., as the plane approached the boundary of Malaysian airspace, Captain Zahari's voice came over the radio. "Good night, Malaysian 370, he said calmly. It was a standard handoff to Vietnamese air traffic control, a mundane exchange that carried no sense of foreboding. These words, spoken with practiced professionalism, would later become infamous. They would be the last anyone ever heard from MH370. 2 minutes later, the aircraft disappeared from civilian radar. In the control room of Kuala Lumpur's air traffic center, a controller noticed the absence of MH370 on his screen. At first, he assumed it was a technical glitch. Planes occasionally flickered off radar due to signal interference or equipment issues. But as the minutes ticked by, the silence from MH370 became deafening. Unbeknownst to the world, the aircraft had made an abrupt and deliberate turn westward. Military radar would later reveal that the plane flew back over the Malaysian peninsula, across the Strait of Malacca, and into the Andaman Sea. This deviation from its flight path was no accident, it was a controlled maneuver, executed with precision. But who had made the decision to change course? Was it Captain Zahari, First Officer Farrick, or someone else entirely? In the cabin, the passengers remained unaware of the unfolding drama. Some may have slept soundly, lulled by the hum of the engines. Others may have noticed the faint glow of unfamiliar coastlines below, but dismissed it as inconsequential. What they did not know was that they were now flying into the unknown, their fates hanging in the balance. As dawn broke, the world awoke to the first reports of the missing flight. In Beijing, families of the passengers gathered at the airport, scanning the arrival board for updates. Delayed, it read. Minutes turned into hours, and concern gave way to panic. Airline representatives, their faces pale with worry, delivered the devastating news: contact had been lost with MH370. A mother collapsed to the floor, clutching a photograph of her son. A father shouted angrily, demanding answers that no one could provide. The waiting area, once filled with anticipation, became a scene of anguish. In the days that followed, an international search effort was launched on an unprecedented scale. Dozens of ships and aircraft scoured the South China Sea, where the plane had last been tracked by civilian radar. But the ocean, vast and unyielding, offered no clues. It was as if MH370 had vanished into thin air, leaving behind only questions. The discovery of the plane's westward turn deepened the mystery. Military radar data, combined with satellite signals known as handshakes, revealed that MH370 had continued flying for nearly 7 hours after its disappearance. These handshakes, transmitted automatically between the aircraft and a satellite operated by the British company Inmarsat, provided a faint echo of the plane's existence. But they did not include precise location data, only an arc of possible flight paths. One path stretched north, toward Central Asia. The other led south, into the remote Indian Ocean. The southern route became the focus of the investigation. The Indian Ocean was a forbidding expanse, a place where depths reached over 20,000 feet and where storms brewed with little warning. If the plane had indeed crashed there, finding it would be akin to searching for a needle in a haystack. Undeterred, search teams deployed advanced sonar equipment and underwater drones to comb the seabed. Months turned into years, but the ocean yielded no answers. As the search continued, investigators turned their attention to the crew. Captain Zahari became a figure of intense scrutiny. His flight simulator, discovered in his home, contained data suggesting he had practiced routes similar to the one MH370 was believed to have taken. To some, this was irrefutable evidence of premeditation. To others, it was a coincidence, the innocent hobby of a passionate aviator. Zahari's family and friends defended him fiercely, describing him as a dedicated pilot and loving grandfather. Yet the shadow of doubt lingered. For the families of the passengers, the uncertainty was a living nightmare. In Beijing, they gathered in hotel conference rooms, clinging to hope even as it faded with each passing day. In Kuala Lumpur, vigils were held, their flickering candles a fragile symbol of resilience. The world watched as their grief unfolded on television screens, their cries a haunting reminder of the human cost of the tragedy. A breakthrough came in July 2015, when a piece of debris washed ashore on Réunion Island. The barnacle-covered flaperon was confirmed to be from MH370, providing the first tangible evidence of the plane's fate. Over the following years, more debris would wash up on distant shores, fragments of a puzzle that refused to be solved. Despite exhaustive efforts, the main wreckage of MH370 has never been found. The official investigation, suspended in 2018, concluded that the cause of the disappearance could not be determined without the black boxes. For the families, this was a bitter blow. Their loved ones had been taken from them, and now the hope of answers was gone as well. To this day, the disappearance of Malaysia Airlines flight MH370 remains one of the greatest mysteries of modern aviation. It is a story of loss, resilience, and unanswered questions, a ghost that lingers in the skies. Let us know your thoughts in the comments, and if you love aviation mysteries, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the bell icon for more thrilling stories.